talk about, okay. And thank you. I was told to prompt for that recording in progress. We're delighted to be able to record this so that everyone has an opportunity to take in the content at a later point. So we're going to talk about this vibrant leadership light, and we're going to talk about this vibrant leadership light in the context of empowering your board to do the best possible job. So what we're talking about is really, there are 4 things that you can do to empower your board. There's the orientation part of it. That's the orientation to the chapter, the orientation to the job. It means the big things and the little things. Empowering your board takes training. It's building skills and confidence. One of the things we talked about, I don't know how many of you were actually with us in person at the Chapter Academy in February, but we talked a bit about Dan and Chip Heath's book, Decisive. And we suggested that that would be a great opportunity for the board to do a group read of that, kind of like, a book club, because that's going to help you build your skills on decision making. So training, giving opportunities for the board to learn individually and collectively. Now, in order for you to drive action, you have to have productive and engaging board meetings, right? We're going to talk about that in particular today. But the last thing I want to mention that really fills out our ability to empower our board is countering attention fatigue. Now, what I mean by this is that we have to rigorously prune our to-do lists, and we have to create interactions that build energy, which goes back to building productive and engaging board meetings. Today's focus. Now, before we get into what is a better board meeting, I'd like to get a sense from you on how your board meetings are shaping up. So you're already in the chat, and I really appreciate this. We got a great tip: agenda, stick to it, morning meetings. Now, interestingly enough, and I don't know if Tabitha is thinking about this, but there has been a lot of study about when to have meetings. And the beautiful thing about morning meetings is oftentimes, if it's going to be a tough process or something that has to have a lot of thought and consideration, some analytics about it, is better in the morning when we're fresher. So I can see why she might like morning meetings because it gives you're just fresh to be able to take care of those. And I love Alyssa's question, which is, she's got a beautiful, I'm going to call it a tip inside this question. Like, how do you get volunteers to have a good report? In other words, having a good report is important. But let me go ahead. I'm going to put a couple of polls up here. You keep chatting. I'm going to put a couple polls up here to find out a little bit more about how you're doing board meetings. So the first question is, does your board typically meet? Now, I know you can have a combination, but I mean, the most common meeting, is it virtual? Is it hybrid? Is it in person? Virtual, hybrid, or in person? So I love Cindy's comment as we're sitting here is, my group loves afternoon meetings. I think that one of the really critical things is for us to ask the group and go with the group flow, no matter what anybody says, right? All right, let me share the results. I've got most of you in, I believe now. So most of you are doing virtual meetings. Well, that's kind of good because the game we're going to play today is a virtual meeting. It does have some unique things that we have to deal with. We're going to share some of that. I like the fact that a couple of you are doing hybrid, which is allowing you to incorporate some in-person components to it. Let me go ahead and ask you this question. Hang on one second while I stop that sharing and open the next one. All right. So now this one, I'm asking you to describe your board's engagement. And I'm saying, are you most are highly engaged? There's a mix of engagement, or are you mostly low engagement? And the reason why I'm asking this question, and it's in the eye of the beholder, right? But do you generally have 1 or 2 people talking and everybody's sitting around? Low engagement. Do you have this mix of engagement where, depending upon the topic, boy, things kind of open up and some energy comes out? Or maybe it's just your folks come and they're ready to go and they're ready to have good conversations. I love that solution, Tabitha, about understanding that if you're too far apart, we're putting a burden on volunteers to get them. but where we can use the serendipity of an opportunity to connect allows you to build those in-person bonds. Great way of addressing the need for community and the need for efficiency. All right, got most of the folks in. Let me end the poll and share the results. So the good news is more than half of you say there's a mix of engagement. It's not unusual for us to see low engagement, and a number of you have mostly highly engaged. So this is good. We're going to learn from all of you that have most and a mix, and we're going to offer some ideas getting past the low engagement. All right, I've got one more poll for you. Now this one's going to take you a little bit more because it is multiple choice. I want to know which of these you incorporate in your board meeting. And it's a long list. You might have to scroll down using what is probably a gray bar on the right to scroll down to see all of the choices. But community building activity, mission connection, consent agenda, board education or training that's embedded in the meeting itself. Meeting evaluation, and I don't mean about your education, I mean about your board meeting, brainstorming, open discussion items, polls, shared documents. And I said an other, because there's could be lots of stuff. So I want you to go ahead and throw that in chat if you have any others.
Peggy, remember at Academy you talked about having fun at a board meeting? So it'd be interesting if anybody can share anything fun, maybe even since Academy, that they've added into a meeting.
Yeah, well, I'm sure the owl, right? The owl certainly helps.
Yep.
So definitely share. How do you put fun in your board meeting? I'm going to share the results here. Holiday pictures. I love it. So I love the fact that there are a couple of you using a consent agenda. Amen, alleluia, and yes, you need to do that. Board education or training, put in chat, what kind of education or training have you built in there, okay? Brainstorming open discussion item, that's a big one. I'm glad to see that. Shared documents. Now, by shared documents, I'd love for you to answer the question of what collaboration or real-time tool you're using. We're doing some strategic planning and we're using Jamboard, for example. We have used an open Google Doc. There's lots of different ways to do that, but go ahead and put that in chat as well. Oh, Penny, that is very cool. Doing pieces of website training in your meetings to help people get acquainted to that. That's a great idea.
I love Craig's idea. Today is National Whatever Day, something fun and different to do.
Yeah, excellent. So I didn't see anybody marking community building activity. So I think we need to talk about that. The mission connection, I think we need to talk about that. Meeting evaluation, definitely need to talk about that. And I believe that we should talk a little bit about polls. So we're going to go ahead and put all of those on our list for part of our conversation. But now is the time for us to show you some effective practices, show you some of these, not all of them, but some of them in action. So get your handouts out. They were sent as part of the invitation, because you're joining the PBLTJ chapter board meeting. It's our April meeting and it's in progress. We're going to jump in. It's in progress. You're invited to use that handout and spot the differences. By spotting the differences, I mean the things that elevate this board meeting to be more effective, more engaging, and in general, more productive. Now, a little bit of background about this chapter. We meet virtually every other month. On alternating months, we do small group work. So we have simply found that if you really want to get as productive meetings as possible, you break the board into some smaller groups and allow them to tackle some things and then bring them back to the group. Twice a year, those meetings are in person, but we keep a call-in option. I think we're going to have to invest in the OWL because I think that would be a great investment, right, team? Right, my board?
Yes.
As a board member, you received your agenda and resource materials last week, always 1 week prior. Now, we are going to jump in and we're going to have a wonderful meeting, but unfortunately, we just completed our icebreaker, and you missed it. Sorry about that, but it was a rapid fire set of Zoom polls to find out who knows the most about our town. Turns out there was a tie between Tara and Lori. Congratulations on winning the tie. That is a Starbucks card for each one of you. All right. Are you ready to jump in and check out this meeting? Hello, hello, my board members. That was so much fun. Let's get our, I'm gonna pause for just a moment. Can we get our folks spotlighted so people can see my board around the virtual table? I think we're working on that, folks.
It's me, Lori, Penny, and Tara.
And I do have a Starbucks card to give away.
So I'll get started as we get going. Okay. So, wow, that icebreaker was a lot of fun, and congratulations to you too. A couple of things I just like to remind us as we get started. First of all, don't forget to raise your hand if you want to be called on, and please, please, please put notes in chat. Remember, we save that chat and share it back to all of us. It allows us the opportunity, of course, to be able to keep the conversation moving. Now, as we always do, we are on a rotation for who's going to be the timekeeper. So yes, Jen, I know that your role is taking the notes, but you're also in charge of the time this week, okay? By the way, let's pause for just a moment. Why are we here? We're here because our mission is to develop, to support, to promote the public procurement profession. That's why we're here. That's what we're working towards each and every day in the chapter. Now, if we break that down just a little bit more, we're here to serve our members and our potential members, everybody in our beautiful profession, we're here to serve. So that's our connection point. Let's keep that in our minds as we go through. So let me just go ahead. You received the agenda. You received the agenda in advance. So I know that you're all ready and you've taken a look at it. Congratulations. I am super excited. All right, we are going to start with, of course, our regular start, which is our consent agenda. And I'm going to ask Jennifer, could you please read, and then we will we'll go ahead and see if there's any questions about that. Jennifer.
Sure. Peggy, thanks again for sending that out ahead of time. So we all had time to review, read all of that, and then ask any questions prior. So our consent agenda had our March meeting minutes, our April monthly financial, our president's report, the membership report, volunteer appointment changes to the membership committee, the update of our NIGP chapter reporting forms, and the program communication membership committee reports. Once that went out, I only received one question on any of those items, and that was about clarification on the new appointment to the membership committee, and I responded yes, that they could approve that and add somebody new. There were no other questions provided prior.
Okay, Jennifer, thank you very much. I will ask the board now if there is any, are there any options to remove, to handle independently? Any options? Please speak now. No, excellent. Well, that is great. Well, then let me call for a motion to vote to accept the consent agenda.
I move to accept the consent agenda.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you, Penny and Tara. It has been it's been moved. Can I have a vote now, please?
Aye.
Aye.
Excellent. Great. Don't you just love the fact that we get to jump right into our most important thing? Now, as it said at the beginning of our agenda, this entire focus is going to be on member engagement. Of course, we need to start with what's right in front of us. And the very first thing that's coming down the pike that needs some attention from us tonight is going to be the December trade show. So what I'm going to do in just a moment is call on Tara to ask her to lead that discussion on the trade show. Please note that you did receive at the beginning, a part of your resources, you did in fact receive the latest update and report. So I'm going to move it over to Tara. Tara.
Thanks, Peggy. So we're super excited about this year's trade show. I want to thank all of you who put forward sponsor recommendations. We do have a couple more spots. So if you have any more available sponsors, please send those over. Next, I'd like to talk about some ways that we might be able to market this event. In the past, we've leaned on our membership to market the event. So I'd like to hear some of your thoughts as far as some other ways that we might be able to market. So I was thinking we'd do a round robin and start alphabetically and kind of get your ideas as far as how you think that we might be able to market this year's trade show. Jennifer?
Tara, I'm going to pass. Can you come back to me? I want some more time to think about it or hear what others have to say. So I'm going to pass for right now.
Absolutely. Lori?
Hello. So I had some ideas on handing out save the dates at other trade shows, for example, like at NIGP's trade show, other chapter events, reverse trade shows. This would give you access to a lot of vendors on site and you have face-to-face time with them.
Oh, great idea. Peggy?
Oh, I love that idea. And let me add on it. I'm wondering if we could take those cards and actually give them to some members that we could give perhaps to them to distribute to some of their staff, if that's a possibility. Plus, let's make sure we use our Instagram account.
Yeah, absolutely. What about you, Penny?
Well, some of you may not remember this, but back in the 80s, there was this commercial and it was for Fabergé shampoo and it was Heather Locklear and she would tell two friends and they would tell two friends and so on and so on. And so, you know, I was thinking about that. I thought, and also I saw where another chapter did something kind of like that to engage their members and they challenged their board members to take a list of 5 people to do something like that. You know, haven't been around a long time.
I think that's a great idea, Penny. Having everybody kind of share that information moving forward. I think that's definitely something that we can look at engaging our members to do.
Kara, I thought it's made me think of something now, if we'll come back to me, since we're doing well on sponsors, and I know that we are tight on our budget. What if we want to print those postcards, which I think was a good idea since we haven't done those save the dates, is maybe to get a sponsor for them. So if we still have some spots available, maybe one of them would want to come in and sponsor those cards so we don't have to use any of our conference budget for it.
That's great. That's a great way to offset our budget too for the year, which we're always looking at doing.
Okay.
Well, thank you guys for all of your input on different ways to market. I'm going to do some research and put all of these ideas together, and then I'll bring them back at the next board meeting.
Tara, thank you very much for pulling that conversation together and all of you for coming up with ideas. Penny, thank you again I know you have a lot of knowledge and we love that and just appreciate you offering that up, but glad that we were able to get that down to an idea that we could put on paper. So we talked about the fact that the focus area of this particular meeting, as it says at the top of our agenda, is really about member engagement. I'm super excited to have this conversation take place. Luckily, there was a number of us that got to the in-person chapter academy. And by the way, board, you know, we always put in the budget to take folks. So that's my little plug for next year. But thankfully, Penny, with some help from Lori, agreed to take what we learned, kind of synthesize it and bring it to the whole group for a conversation. So I'm going to now peg Penny to take us away with some assist by Lori. Penny.
Thank you, Peggy. Yes, so you all are familiar with our chapter dashboard, and we've noted that we're in between yellow and green on the member engagement. frankly, I believe we probably all would agree we're truly in the yellow category on this. We really need to do some focus on this. I would like to discuss some options to improve our member engagement. But first, would like to share a video to jumpstart our thoughts. Peggy, could you show us that TED Talk on starting a movement?
Oh, sure. Let me go ahead and do that. I just got to share my screen. I'm going to optimize it for a video clip. And let's see, I've got this. And moving that out of the way. Are we good? Just give me a quick shout out if we're good.
Yep.
So ladies and gentlemen, at TED, we talk a lot about leadership and how to make a movement. So let's watch a movement happen start to finish in under 3 minutes and dissect some lessons from it. First, of course, you know, a leader needs the guts to stand out and be ridiculed. But what he's doing is so easy to follow. So here's his first follower with a crucial role. He's going to show everyone else how to follow. Now notice that the leader embraces him as an equal. So now it's not about the leader anymore, it's about them, plural. Now there he is calling to his friends. Now if you notice that the first follower is actually an underestimated form of leadership in itself. It takes guts to stand out like that. The first follower is what transforms a lone nut into a leader. And here comes a second follower. Now it's not a lone nut, it's not two nuts, 3 is a crowd, and a crowd is news. So a movement must be public. It's important to show not just the leader, but the followers, because you find that new followers emulate the followers, not the leader. Now here come 2 more people, and immediately after, 3 more people. Now we've got momentum. This is the tipping point. Now we've got a movement. So, notice that as more people join in, it's less risky. So those that were sitting on the fence before now have no reason not to. They won't stand out, they won't be ridiculed, but they will be part of the in crowd if they hurry. So, over the next minute, you'll see all of the those that prefer to stick with the crowd, because eventually they would be ridiculed for not joining in. And that's how you make a movement. But let's recap some lessons from this. So first, if you are the type, like the shirtless dancing guy, that is standing alone, remember the importance of nurturing your first few followers as equals. So it's clearly about the movement, not you. Okay, but we might have missed the real lesson here. The biggest lesson, if you noticed, did you catch it? Is that leadership is over-glorified. That yes, it was the shirtless guy was first, and he'll get all the credit, but it was really the first follower that transformed the lone nut into a leader. So as we're told that we should all be leaders, that would be really ineffective. If you really care about starting a movement, have the courage to follow and show others how to follow. And when you find a lone nut doing something great, have the guts to be the first one to stand up and join in. And what a perfect place to do that at TED. Thanks.
Penny, that was cool. Take us on.
Thanks
That's
for
great.
sharing.
Thanks, Peggy, for showing that. So to avoid us having to be the single lone nut out there dancing shirtless, which I don't think anybody wants to see that, me being the one to do that. So Lori and I kind of got together and we came up with kind of 3 ideas to jumpstart us and to discuss to see how we could do some more member engagement. So we have 3 options. One is to create a team to explore further. Second option is to focus on developing a new member onboarding program. Sorry, I can't talk today. And number 3 is to create our volunteer pathway. So what do y'all think? Any thoughts on those 3 ideas? Yes, Jen.
The video inspired me with all kinds of ideas. Thanks for sharing that. It was actually nice to have something different in our meeting as a video too. So thanks for thinking about that, Penny. But I started to think about all kinds of programs that we could put in place. When you talk about we need to be the example and the leader, I was thinking about bring a coworker to an event and asking each of the board members to bring somebody with them. So we show by example. I think we could be creating a mentorship program in which we pair people up with, newbies. I know a lot of chapters are doing that, and I'm sure we can find other chapters and maybe what their resources are to do that. So we're not starting from scratch. There just was a lot of motivation in that video to create all these new programs.
Jen, awesome. There are so many there. I'm not sure if Penny caught all of them. Penny, did you get some of those cool ideas?
Sorry.
I did. I was taking notes furiously.
Sorry, I still have 3 or 4 more, but I understand. Sorry.
We want to have a chance to let Penny lead us in get other voices in, just so we can, just chew on some bunch of ideas. Jennifer, add those in chat.
Thanks.
I think
Go ahead,
I think
Lori.
that sounds really cool, but I think we need to pull back from the weeds a little bit and give us an opportunity to draw in members. I just don't want us assuming that the board's going to do all this.
Okay. Okay, so it sounds like oh, go ahead. Yeah.
No, I was about to say that makes sense. A lot of things I was thinking about or talking about is that we would do, and that's probably not the path we need to be going down. We need to spread out that work.
Okay. All right. So hearing a couple different things. Any other thoughts on, kind of next steps, which one we like the best? Okay. Not getting a lot of feedback. So let's do this. Let's kind of jump in and use the fist to 5 technique so I can get your thoughts on each one. And so you all know what to do when we go through each one. This means absolutely no, all the way up to woo, 5 is great. That's the one we want to do. So number 1, create a team to explore further. Okay. I see a no, some 3s. Okay. Number 2 was the focus on developing a new member onboarding program. Okay. Oh, okay. I see 5s. Very good. And number 3 is create our volunteer pathway. Yeah. Okay. All right. So it sounds like number 2 is kind of our thought that we would like to follow. So what would help us move forward? What steps could we take next to move this idea forward?
What
Jen?
if we make some phone calls to other members outside of our board or our active members to kind of to get people engaged, maybe to set up not necessarily a new committee or task force, but again, not us board members doing it all, and then try to engage some new people to take on putting some thoughts and ideas of a new program together.
Okay.
I like that, Jennifer. I was thinking maybe we could do something to engage our first timers at our December meeting too. That seems to be the biggest meeting because the holidays are coming up. So people use it as an opportunity to get out. So maybe if we take that as an opportunity to engage those first timers with some of our other members.
And Tara, I'll even add on to that is that instead of us calling those members that we want to get engaged, why don't we as board take advantage when we're in person at that event and also tap into those people face to face? I think people like to be approached that way and asked to volunteer. So let's take advantage while we have them in person.
Absolutely.
So it looks like, Penny, you've gotten us to a place where we've zeroed in on this idea of rethinking our member onboarding program, correct?
Correct.
Well, thank you. Thank you for getting us to that point. Now, the question I'm sure on all of our minds is who's going to do what next? Because we have to actually take that idea and move it forward. We've got a couple of things that have bubbled up. We don't want this to be just the board. Yes, we could wait till December, but we are sitting here in April. So the question is, would it be valuable for us to do something before December? Any thoughts on that?
Yeah, it just now dawned on me with the timing of that. We could do that, kind of reach out, each one of us reach out to extend to somebody else to put them in that place, in that role, to start those discussions so it's out of the hands of the board. And we could do that and maybe assign it for our next meeting, is to each have a person or have made a call or two.
I would agree with that.
I also agree.
Penny,
You know
as
what?
our membership chair, do you think you could reach in to the member database and find us, say, about between 5 and 10 individuals who we haven't seen at a meeting recently?
Yes, absolutely.
Okay, and then would you follow up and share those names with the group, and we'll all take the assignment? Jennifer, as secretary, can you go ahead and just manage the name assignment process?
Absolutely.
Excellent. So before we walk away, Penny, that was a great TED video. Love to hear from your perspective, and then I'm going to call on Lori, Tara, and Jennifer. What really resonated for you from that little TED talk?
Couple of things. So for me, I typically am that one lone nut out there dancing, and so but the one thing I really loved was encouraging that second person that comes and really embracing that person, and the point of bringing them along as your partner, not as a follower. So I think that's really cool to get those followers as part of your group.
I would agree with Penny, and I also think that it kind of made everyone, and before it was all said and done, feel like a leader, right? Like you were leading the show.
Yeah, it actually reminds me a lot of my husband too. He's always that one that's jumping in with the crazy nuts. So, or the lone nuts. He's always jumping in, doing whatever they're doing, which is not me. And you will not see me, like Bob said, dancing shirtless at any meetings. So, but yeah, it was really nice just to see everybody pulling in together, and essentially everybody was having a good time. So that's what really resonated with me, was not just the lone nut or the first one to jump in, but once everybody did, they were all having a good time and enjoying themselves.
And for me, well, the lone nut stood out at the beginning. At the end, we didn't even know who that leader was anymore. It wasn't about that individual person. It was about the group as a whole. And I think our work with the chapters and why we've been sitting on the board, in the end, it's really about us as a whole. So that resonated, that they didn't stand out anymore. Everybody was a part of the same group.
And can I jump back in real quick too? Jen, that's a good point too, because for me personally, volunteering, that's the fun part of it, is that you end up with that big group of people and you have that amazing network to support you.
Again, thanks for that idea of bringing the video. It allowed us to look at things a little bit differently.
Does it tell us anything about how we might begin thinking about smaller engagement opportunities or anything? I mean, I was watching how easy it was to get involved, and it didn't take a lot of effort.
I didn't think it'd take a lot of effort because he showed like he was having fun. So if we're having a good time, then it's maybe easier for somebody to want to join us. If we're talking or complaining about, I've been assigned something else again, or dreading having to do it, why would anybody want to join us? I mean, in the end, we always are the ones that, raise our hands and say, we'll do the project, but is that coming off as a negative? And is that what our membership is feeling as well?
Right.
I would completely agree with that. Being able to show that you have a good time during your volunteer time is crucial, and we all know that we have those extra things on our plates, especially when we're volunteering and part of the board, but not letting that piece of it show to our membership.
Very good. Oh, thank you very much, Jennifer, for the time check-in chat. I appreciate that. We do want to make sure we are staying on time and on schedule, and we've used our time for this particular conversation. So again, big round of applause. Can we all just thank Penny and Lori for taking this on? It's a new concept to get us pushed, and they found that TED Talk. Hey, awesome, awesome, awesome. All right, and next up, we're gonna tag Lori for the procurement month.
All right.
Thank you, Lori, very much. That was a great report on that. And we're going to go ahead and pull to our closing, the action items and the closing that we always do. Okay, remembering, Jennifer, can you please just quickly run down what are the immediate action items that we need to do?
Yeah, Tara was gonna work on those save the date cards and possibly getting those to get some more sponsorships to get them paid, as well as to increase our membership for that event. We also left with that we decided that we were going to work on a focus group for developing new board onboarding. Penny was going to look at a list of people who haven't attended in a while and assign that over to me so I can pair that and give those to the board to make calls to see who may want to step up and volunteer on that group. Did I miss anything?
Yeah, thank you, Jennifer. Did she miss anything or is anything unclear? Great. I love this because of course it takes a team to get all of this done. So before we wrap up, we talked a little bit about what you learned from the TED Talk, but you know, we always like to end with the 2 questions. The first one I'm going to ask, and I'm going to ask you, you do not have to, you can put a private message to me in the chat, or you can respond with one of your emojis. Was the meeting useful tonight? Again, was the meeting useful tonight? And again, you can do that privately in chat. Excellent. Oh, we've got some folks that are just happy in general. I love that. Okay, awesome. And while you're doing that, I just want to also remind us to share what you learned. We're going to do a real quick round robin. I'm just going to call on you. I'm going to start with Jennifer, but just one thing that you learned from this that we're going to take forward. Going to go Jennifer, Lori, Penny, and Tara. We're going to start with Jennifer.
I'm going to take it from the TED Talk. We need to show that we're having fun. We need to walk the walk.
Excellent. Lori.
I love the idea of the agenda with consent items to avoid taking so much time on each item.
Excellent. Penny.
I love the idea of us sharing the workload by breaking these tasks into pieces.
Great. And Tara.
I really liked Penny's idea of when you share the marketing, pushing forward to your membership, share with 3 people, and kind of moving that forward. So I'm really excited. That's something that I haven't heard before. So I'm excited to take that forward to our membership.
Excellent. Very good. Thank you. Remember, Jennifer will have the action items, not the minutes, just the action items out to all of you by the close of today. We will follow up with the minutes as we always do within that week period of time. It will be in our board folder, so you'll be able to go up there and take a look at it. Also, just want to remind you that in that in your agenda is the link to our meeting, post-meeting survey, and Jennifer will also send that link out. Remember, the post-meeting survey is our opportunity to make the best use of our time. Wow, this agenda was crazy. We got a lot of stuff done. Big round of applause. And we'll segue to our wine tasting. Let's just go ahead, get up from our videos long enough to do whatever we need to do personally. I'll see you back here in 5. And boy, the wine tasting is going to be awesome, especially selected from our beautiful friend coming on for that wine tasting. Have a few minutes. We'll see you back here. And it's a wrap. Okay. So first of all, can I get all of the folks that have been lurking? Yes, thank you, Alyssa. Everybody to please give Penny, Tara, Lori, and Jennifer a huge round of applause because I put them on the spot for all of this. And you know, nothing is ever perfect, but it's our goal to show you just some things that we think can improve where we are, what we're doing. So with that, what I want to do now is share my screen one more time. And let me get over here, making sure all of these wonderful elements here, just moving my things around, take it to back here. Okay. So what did you spot? What did you spot in this wonderful kind of fun game that we played? You can go off mute or you can put it in your chat. What did you spot? What did you spot about this meeting that you would take away as an effective practice? Anyone?
I could chime in. One thing I liked was when you were like suggesting assignments to people, you were relating it to their role. So you were like, oh, as secretary, you could do this. I like that.
Excellent. Cool. Yes, Kim, assigning action items clearly and early. Excellent. Anyone else?
Peggy, there was also the use of the consent agenda to not keep up time with having to read through all those, that's done and read prior.
Good. Samantha noticed how you all did a great job in limiting the tangents. But yet taking those ideas and doing that. Excellent. Thank you, Sarah. Your little team of players there was great, weren't they? All right, you keep coming them in chat. What I want to do, yeah, was someone going to say something?
I was going to say something, and it's the first time I saw it and we talked about it. I loved the fist to 5, which is something I'd never heard about before. And it's without doing an official vote if you need to, but still gauging where especially if you have a large board and you have all your committee chairs and everybody's there, it's a good way to gauge what people think about some ideas or going on direction. And I liked using that without having to put it into formal votes all the time, just to gauge your audience.
Yeah, great. And I think that, and we've got some links for that, so you can see the formal fist to 5. It's also very useful if you all are discussing something around the board table, and it can be done, by the way, I've used it in person as well as virtually, right? So here's what's interesting is, let's say you've gotten to a place where they're in impasse. You're doing this before you do a vote because you don't want to have a fisticuffs over a vote. So you do this. So then what you can do is you can say to anybody who did a fist, 1 or 2 fingers, tell us what would make it the next level up. If I wanted to go from a 2 to a 3, what would make it to a 3? What would make it to a 4? That powerful question actually helps you understand what are some of the stumbling blocks. So it's just another way of being able to, first of all, give people an easy way, fist to 5, but it also allows you to then to go back and say, okay, we get that you're not satisfied. Don't tell me when we say, well, what's wrong with it? The person goes down the rabbit hole. When we say what would make it, and I know that you all use this in your day job, but you could bring it to your board meetings as well. So glad you all saw that and might give that a try. Good. Well, let me just go ahead. I want to highlight some of the things, some of the points that we made, just so you can sort of, and you're going to get all of these slides, just so you can sort of find a space where maybe you can ponder these a little bit more. Yes. That is, Alyssa, I saw your thing. That is the important thing about the agenda, is that you put people's names in it, but not as a committee report, but as somebody who's going to own the conversation, as somebody who is going to be the opportunity to bring their thoughts and their preparation and their ideas to the table. It also follows that the idea of the first follower and the second follower. As president, I shouldn't be doing all the talking. I shouldn't be responsible for everything. I really need to share that leadership, and I think it's really great. And so I'm glad you saw that. So this little slide just simply says, here are the signs of an effective meeting. This comes out of meeting research. This comes out of a place where we talk about what do you see in meetings that are effective. And there's a number of things here. The advanced agenda you saw us do, the action list at the end you saw us do. You saw us use things like the pause. I don't know if you noticed in the round robin, but Jen paused at first. She said, pass, I'll come back. The round robin technique, and we'll also send you that link, is a great way of not saying, anybody got any ideas? And then you all sit and nobody knows who to talk, where to talk. So the person who always talks jumps in, right? The round robin gives everybody an opportunity. You'll also notice that, it's perfectly acceptable for you to say no comment or pass. Silence is not the acceptable thing. So what we're doing is we're creating kind of a formal way for everybody to either to use their voice in some way. You didn't necessarily see us using the parking lot or the ground rules. To a certain degree, you saw when Jennifer was going a bit on and on about the weeds, what I liked was you saw Lori do a modification of the parking lot by very nicely saying, this all sounds cool and we can get to that area. But what we really want to do right now is figure out the first step, right? So you saw that kind of a parking lot concept, right? There was focus. I don't know how many of you noticed that in the agenda, we had what might be by some folks a shortened agenda. There were not many items, and the items were offered in priority order. So we knew we had to address marketing the December event. We knew how important it was for us to engage members because the dashboard has told us that that's an area for us to work on, right? Now, the procurement month is important, but we just ended the procurement month and we got time for that. So that was the last item. Now, we didn't go through that. I did a time leap because we wanted to get ourselves moving and we didn't want you to sit through a whole board meeting. You do enough of that. But I could have easily had said to Lori, hey, look at the time. Why don't we come back to the procurement update? And if you've got a couple of links or something you can share with us, please share with us. So by doing priority order, you get the most important things done. What we tend to do is the flip. What we tend to do is rather than having the focus, we tend to go through the checklist and then we run out of steam. So just as a thought about how important it is for us to put what is important at the top. There are, the meeting is the meeting, but what makes the meeting valuable, effective, energizing is what you do in advance and what you do after and in between. And so I'd like to just share with you a couple of thoughts quickly about this. In advance, obviously, we showed you the agenda. You noticed assignments. Now, it went out a week before. As the president, I would have made sure everybody knew that they were on that. But it's also a great reminder. The other thing is when you see people's names, it reminds them that they have to be there and they're expected to be there on time. Pre-reading. You may have noticed in the agenda that we had a couple of links that were pre-reads, plus, of course, the consent agenda. But we make sure that there's active engagement before you get to the meeting. Why? Because I'm investing in being at the meeting. Now, I'm not saying give a lot of big stuff. In fact, don't give a lot of big stuff, right? You really want to make sure that the stuff in advance is not a huge lift. But, we did the link to the NIGP procurement month. So that's just a fast, quick link, just an opportunity for you to take a look at it. One of the things that we do for events is all of our events, and I'm speaking about my own chapter over here, which is not an NIGP chapter. We have what we call quick sheets on all of our events. So we always attach the quick sheet as one of the items. It's actually linked as one of the items so that you can get a heads on where we are on that particular event. The other thing that's really cool about in advance is right before the meeting, send the details. The day of, send the details. Do not expect the fact that it is on their calendar that they are going to be able to find that or know that. So a quick email that says, see you in 4 hours or see you at 7 is your way of making sure that it's easy to join. Now, after and in between, there's opportunities for you to build the community. You noticed that Jen did a quick summary of our immediate action items. She's going to get those action items out because she probably had, as I suggest that the secretaries have, she probably had an email open. And as she was taking those notes, she was putting them right into an email. That's an effective practice that allows you at the end of the meeting to say, here's the 5 action items, more to come. Bing, and it goes. That makes sure that people follows up. And the important thing about doing this is if you need folks to see something and act on it, there's Julie Bort, an author for Biz Insiders, noted in one of the surveys that 14% of individuals will read the follow-up materials right after the meeting. 2/3 will read or review them within a day. Beyond that, it gets lost. So if you really had a good discussion and you really want something to happen, the immediacy is going to be important. You can make it as easy as possible. Have your secretary or whoever is doing this, have them email open and typing, and then it's just a send at the end. So I don't want to belabor that, but I do want you to really be thinking about the fact that if we're going to keep people connected to what we need them to do, we have to remind them. So any follow-up materials should be brief and as quickly as possible. Then I suggest, and this could be something that the board actually, if you've got board buddies, which is a great way of onboarding new folks, or officers could have a board buddy that's a director or a committee chair. And what I'm asking you, and I'm asking the chair to do, is to check in with those individuals individually, check in with anybody individually. So you're really, just could be a quick email, making sure that if there are any questions, if there's any observations, that those are captured. Now, in between, as a leader, you should be reaching out with some quick updates, right? Having the opportunity to connect between the meetings. Connecting right before a meeting and right after is good, but if you're meeting every other month, there's lots of time in between. So anyway, some tips there. In chat, any of these resonate in particular, any of these in advance, after, or between texts. First of all, I'm sure you're doing some of them, so tell us what you're doing. But any one of them look like it's something that would be interesting for you to try. A quick pause.
Peggy, I'm just going to add, I love your idea of whoever your secretary or meeting minutes, however you define that within your chapter, is actually taking with an email the action items to send them out immediately. I think that's something, it's one of those light bulb moments that seems obvious. Why hadn't we all thought of something like that? Because I think historically everybody takes minutes home afterwards. It's a day or two of processing and then gets sent out. But how effective to have it on the spot and to go out. To me, that it's little, but it's a huge revelation of trying to make it quick and precise.
Thanks.
Yes.
Seeing a couple of comments in here. Excellent. So we had an earlier question about consent agendas, and Jennifer's got a really good link for you. You'll get this slide as well. I'm not going to go into this in really deep detail, but I will tell you that one of the most important things with the consent agenda is that you make sure that you have the opportunity for folks to say, I have an issue with something, and that gets removed. So the consent agenda is an opportunity for you to move past giving reports, but make sure that you have that opportunity for folks to pull something out of the consent agenda. If it is pulled out of the consent agenda for discussion, the chair has the right to say, we will do that right now. Let's approve the consent agenda and then we'll discuss it, or put it later on the agenda, or put it for a future agenda item. Okay. So it's important. The consent agenda works when everybody is engaged in the process itself. Now, you see in advance, you should be the board should be asked to raise any questions in advance. You saw that Jennifer said, and when she was doing the consent agenda, that she did get a question. She responded it, and that person said thank you. Now, what she also did was she sent that question and response to the entire board. So you can actually take all of that, I don't want to call it mundane, rote maybe, but the stuff that's important, but you don't need to take up the valuable time for the conversation of an hour or hour and a half meeting, right? And take that outside the board meeting. It also encourages your the folks with reports to get those reports in. So anyway, just as a thought there, the last thing is just notice that they are reflected in the minute. So it's not like you're brushing this under the rug. This is a legitimate, effective process for our board meetings. I love Barbara. You said the chapter secretary has the meeting minutes to us within 30 minutes of closing the meeting. Now that's good practice. Thank you. Beautiful. I love that. I love that. All right. I know that we do have unengaged. I'm not going to spend a lot of time on this because so many of you said that you had you had pretty robust engagement, but I did want to just maybe suggest to you that you build in engagement when you think about this proactively, and that means that you are building it into the agenda. You noticed we had the icebreaker built into the agenda. We said use chat. We did polls at the beginning, didn't do it during the context of our work, but you could actually put polls in. You could have done, rather than the fist to 5, you could have said vote on these 3 things and then taken the one with the most votes. We didn't use breakouts, but in a longer meeting, board meeting, I have used breakouts where I get people to go in, generate some ideas, and then bring them back. And of course, there's the shared doc editing. Somebody said earlier that they do use some collaboration tools for their board meeting. I don't remember who it was, but in chat, share with us what collaboration tools you're using in your board meetings to help people really connect and collaborate, share ideas. So please go ahead and throw that in chat. The second thing is to avoid reports, which we demonstrated. There's nothing, when you start with reports, people know they can be late. Keep it on track. You notice that Jen was the timekeeper. She sent me a private message, so she didn't interrupt the flow, but she just gave me the heads up, and I went ahead and acknowledged it and kept us on track. Whether it's a parking lot, a timekeeper, the point is you're making sure that the meeting stays on track so that it can begin and end on time, which is a gift back to your board. Move the conversation. You saw us do a number of those things. Force it nicely. That was the round robin. And finally, asking everybody to do a rating. So the post board meeting evaluation is critical. It gives people an opportunity to connect what happened in that meeting with what needs to be changed or shifted or improved or perfected, whatever word you want to use. It allows people to say, I felt that I was involved, or I could have been more involved. So I get some self-evaluation. It helps me evaluate the team. So you can say, I felt the team was really prepared. I think the team wasn't prepared. It helps us evaluate the flow of the meeting. If any of you do any of these, let's put that in chat. Just share with us what you do. So we going to go through this one last bit, and then we will work towards closing our meeting. I think we'll be able to close it just a little bit early. So stay with us for a few more minutes. Thank you, Samantha, for jumping in. We do icebreakers. What's your favorite icebreaker that you've done? You can either just jump off of mute or put it in the chat. I'd love to hear. I'm always collecting new icebreakers.
Our
New
favorite is they'll email me ahead of the meeting some of their fun facts, and we have all of the members of the meeting guess who said it.
Love that. And it's real easy. Beautiful. Anyone else either did it or was part of it? A fun icebreaker.
Peggy, I've seen that used also with photos of
Yes.
things people like. Doesn't have necessarily themselves in it, but you know, if you like pizza or traveling or whatever it is, and you have to try to figure out who it is. It's fun. And then it allows you to open up and get to know people and explain, oh, I didn't know you liked that kind of thing.
Yes, perfect. Nice. All righty. Let's go through, please keep using the chat. I'm just going to go through a couple of tips to think about virtually. Did you notice how we all started with names to cue so people could be ready to be unmuted? So I said a couple of times, I said, okay, we're going to go in this order so people knew. I said, oh, I'm going to turn this over to Jen in just a moment. So she knew. Virtually, it's really valuable to do that. And we didn't worry about having pauses, did we? Nope. Labeling emotions. So what that's really about is being able to say, and you might have heard a couple of times in the course where we said, I'm surprised. We didn't have any worried folks, but another way of really helping people understand, like, I'm worried about that. What can we do? So just naming your emotions or labeling your emotions, because the virtual, particularly if we don't have a camera going, we're so cued into facial and body cues, and we don't have those, we can misread sometimes tone. So going ahead and allowing yourself to, you know, I'm really surprised to hear that the attendance so far, registration looks down, but actually I'm worried. How are you feeling about it? And that gives you the opportunity to say, well, I'm not worried because I looked at the tracking, and the tracking says that, you know, we're not going to get this until the week before, and we're still 2 weeks out. It allows the conversation to move. And then by all means, have a cue to raise your hand. As you recall in the very beginning, I said to folks, and I remind you to use, you know, I gave you the options and I said, and please put stuff in chat. So lots of opportunity for us to take our board meetings up to another level. I'm going to stop the share so we can all see each other. And I saw a question come in. How do you overcome those that won't turn on their cameras in a virtual meetings? So that's a great question. And I don't actually worry too much about it. I will tell you why. There are lots of reasons people are uncomfortable putting their cameras on. What I like to do is to suggest that I will do different times where I will ask everybody to please put their camera on for a moment, just so we can see people's face and applaud. And I might do it at the beginning and just say, everybody, cameras on just for a second, wave. Or at the end, okay, everybody, cameras back on again, just give us a high five. So in other words, rather than forcing them to do it the whole time or making them feel awkward, I prefer to build in moments when I absolutely need them on camera if I can get them. The other element, though, is if you absolutely want everybody on camera, then build that into your culture. So build that into how you are talking about the importance of board meetings. Talk about that as an expectations as part of your orientation and onboarding program. If you're going to demand it, you have to build it in the orientation onboarding rules and procedures. One thing you might do is say, okay, I have an idea. I really would love to see everybody's face on, but I'd love us to have a board discussion on this. And so I'm going to go ahead and either by email or in the group chat, let's talk about the pros and cons of some of us having cameras on and some of us not. In other words, bring the conversation to the group. You might find out that there are some very specific reasons, or it might just generate an agreement to have all videos on. I hope that helps. And Brianna, that's exactly right. The introverts, and particularly if you've been in meeting after meeting after meeting in one day, you're like ready to not be on camera. So it's have the conversation, I guess, is the bottom line. Have the conversation. We've covered a lot of ground today. How are we feeling? Give me some emojis or a flash on of your camera. How are we feeling today about this conversation on creating good board meetings? Thank you. We're getting a couple of emojis here. Very good. Awesome. Yes, thank you. A flash on the camera. Excellent, excellent. Very good.
Peggy, I even like that somebody says that they feel their board is on track. So it's a confirmation that they are doing some things good. So sometimes it's just that affirmation that you have got it down.
Excellent. Yeah, and when someone says, well, why do we do this? Well, because Peggy said we should, and we were already doing it, so we kept doing it. I mean, if it helps. It doesn't help with my boys. Mom said doesn't have any, anything there, but if I can be of use to y'all that way, let me know. So just a real quick recap. We want to empower the board. You empower the board through orientation, through training, through engaging meetings. And also in doing all of this, you're counteracting the fatigue by keeping energy up and by keeping the reason for being there together. You will get the slide deck. You have the agenda, the agenda as a template in your hands, and we've got links for you. We also have, though, a follow-up conversation coming up in May on how to use data. And I'm super excited. That's the second of the two parts that you all voted basically in St. Louis that we continue. Jen, I'm going to throw it back to you. And we'll do a close. Look, by the way, your calendar says 3:30. Don't tell anybody if we end early. It's all your time. It's a gift from Jennifer and I. Jennifer, back to you.
Thanks, Peggy. And again, thank you guys. We were really excited that, after being in person in St. Louis, that, we took these two subject matters, the board meetings and data, as an area that everybody seemed to have a lot of energy around, a lot of questions around, and thought it was really important to bring to you all as separate webinars. I think there were some good things here discussed, maybe some new ideas, and maybe even some little small tweaks, changes that can help enhance your board meetings. But hopefully you have some takeaways. I will follow up with an email to you all with the recording and the PowerPoint. I'm also going to share this recording in next week's Leaders in the Loop to put and incorporate under our governance section of the online resource library. So all of our chapters can see and hear about attending or having good board meetings. So we'll incorporate all of that. But thank you guys for joining us. And we will be emailing you a couple times between now and the next session in May.
Excellent. And they all get Oscars,
Thank you, Peggy. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.
And enjoy your little over 15 minutes.
Thank you.
Thanks.